Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm telling you a story from my childhood. It's about the time that I met my biological father for the first time in my life. It just so happened to be the last time as well. It's a story that comes from uh, a time long past in my life, about 4 or 5 years ago when I was back in the big HS, also known as high school. I think it was around sophomore year of high school. I would have been, I believe, 15, 16 around that time. I'm around 20 now. And back then, I guess important context for this story is that I am in fact adopted. And was around that time I'd never met my biological father. I'd met my biological mother twice, the day I was born and the day she died. So there's a lot of trauma to unpack with that, but that's not what we're getting into here. We're getting into the day I met my biological father. Now, my adopted parents, there's not much to say about them, or my parents, I should say, because they are my parents. So they've done me well for my entire life. I still live with them, and I love them quite a lot. Um, Denise and Cheryl, yeah, yeah. Denise and Cheryl, I don't really have a dad. Um, well, Denise she makes me call her my dad, but she is in fact a woman, and I do have two moms, and that caused me a lot of issues in high school. So I guess that segues into sort of the story, but in high school I kind of ran around with, I guess, a bad crowd, right? You drop out of high school, or you drop. I didn't drop out of high school. I finished high school, guys. Come on. I have my diploma. I did drop out of college, though. You drop out of college, you make a YouTube channel. You make a Minecraft YouTube channel telling stories about your childhood. Well, there's something wrong with you, right? And that thing wrong with me, it wasn't the fact that I had two mothers. No. It wasn't the fact that I was adopted by those two mothers. No, it was not that. The thing that was wrong with me, ladies and gentlemen, the thing that was wrong with me was the fact that I did drugs in high school, right? I did marijuana. All right. Now, you might be thinking, marijuana's not that bad. All right, well, you would be right. It didn't mess me up that badly. But, ladies and gentlemen, I did a lot of bad things, and I ran with a bad crowd, and I did a lot of bad things to get that marijuana. And one of those things just so happened to be running into old one-eyed Pete. Yes, old one-eyed, and I forgot the most important part, old one-eyed and one-armed Pete. Now, you read the title of this video, right? The time my father, my biological father, unwittingly sold me laced marijuana. You might be thinking, okay, well, boom, case solved, right? Old one-eyed and one-armed Pete. I mean, that's definitely your dad, right, bro? Like, well, okay, hold on, let me finish the story, right? I mean, you're not wrong, okay? But there's a whole lot more to the story. Don't click off the video quite yet, bro. Please. Watch the beautiful Minecraft gameplay, please. But yes, he did happen to be my dad. But at the time that I knew him multiple times, I never knew he was my father. And for the most part, he always did a great job. And marijuana wasn't the only thing he sold to us, right? Old one-eyed and one-armed Pete, he had a reputation around town, right? He was known. There was a rumor that spread around town that he was growing magic mushrooms in his bathroom. How do you grow magic mushrooms in the bathroom? There's no soil in there. People thought that he was a wizard, right? Me included. He sold us acid. He sold us DMT. There was a few other things here and there, but for personal and professional matters, for personal and professional reasons, I will not be disclosing what old one-armed and one-eyed Pete sold us. But old one-armed and one-eyed Pete, he was the goat, man. He was the fucking guy. He was the guy, he was everybody's first drug dealer, right? You never forget your first, right? Just like sex, you never forget your first drug dealer. It's like it is a euphoric feeling, pulling up to the spot, shaking hands with the guy, trading the money. And he didn't even scam us, right? $50 for a gram. That shit is beautiful even now. I'd pay that now. I would pay that now. I still remember those days like it was yesterday. I mean, sitting at the lunch table in high school, talking about the plans. I don't know if any other people went through this like I did, like my friend group did. But back then, you feel like you can't just say weed, right? You can't just say marijuana. You gotta come up with a code word for it because you think that your phones are being tracked. You think that you're being watched, right? You think that you're gonna get arrested if you even say weed, Seriously. Like, if you don't say it ironically, then, oh shit, you're gonna be detained, right? You're gonna be arrested. So, we came up with a code word. Our code word, which we even used with Pete, anytime we had to set up a meeting with Pete, an arrangement, right? A deal with Pete, we would use this code word, all right? Our code word was video games. So, hey, Paul, you want to come over and play video games? It was fucking foolproof, gang. Fucking foolproof, right? Nobody would know the difference. Video games equals marijuana? Are you fucking kidding me? Who could ever guess that? Who would ever guess that? Not a single soul on earth caught our bluff. Because, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter if you use a pseudonym for weed. Because the only people we're not, our phones aren't getting tracked. That's the thing we never realized, is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The only time it ever matters is if the dealer gets caught or the person he dealt to gets caught and somebody snitches. So, at the end of the day, we were overly cautious, playing with our video games, and texting old one-eyed and one-armed Pete that we would like some video games. And honestly, it makes it seem more suspicious. Hey, Pete, can we get some video games? What is Pete? Does Pete go to the GameStop? Have the cops ever seen Pete leaving a GameStop or entering a GameStop? Pete just really loves Skyrim. No, Pete has never touched an Elder Scroll. The Elder Scroll is his ball sack, I believe. But yeah, that's a little bit of foreplay for the climax that is the story of Pete, old one-armed and one-eyed Pete. But Pete, why he was one-eyed and one-armed. Pete always was a little cagey about why he was one-eyed and one-armed. He never quite told us, right? He never quite gave a straight answer. And for that reason, we never really knew. It was similar to the rumor about the magic mushrooms, right? Nobody really knew why he was one-eyed and one-armed. The only true thing was that we knew he was one-eyed and one-armed. And we knew they were opposite. He was missing his left eye, and he was missing his right arm. And he always told us that he was fluent in his right eye, and he was fluent in his left arm. So he was missing the ones that he was not fluent in. So everyone always theorized that maybe he got rid of them on purpose. Maybe he sold them because he was in deep. But again, nobody ever truly knew why he did those things. Nobody ever truly knew why he was one-eyed or one-armed. Other people theorized that maybe he was a veteran, but no one ever really gave much credence to that idea because, if you ever saw Pete, you would understand that there was no way that man could be a veteran. And going later into the story, you'll understand that the timetables just simply did not match up. Now, let's get into the part about how I figured out that Pete was actually my biological father. One fateful night, October 2020. I'm not sure if it was 2020. I'm just making up a date, man. I don't really remember, right? When you have a bad trip, it's hard to remember the exact date, I feel like. Right? But I do remember it was in October. But one fateful night, Mr. Pete, we text him. We say, hey, Pete, video games? Pull up, but there ain't no SNESs tonight, right? If anything, there's some Sega Genesises. That sounds wrong. There was no sissies. Sorry. Sorry. Long story short, the shit he sold us was bad. It was wrong. It was laced. Gang, it was laced. It was laced with fent. And we took that shit home. And there wasn't even a discount on this one. Usually he discounts it, the discounted price is $50 per gram, but he sold it for $75 that night. And so we got 2 grams for $75 each. I can't do the math right now. So I won like $150 for 2 grams of laced shit. And we took that home, and we had the worst trip of our lives. It was bad. It was bad. It got so bad that my friend Paul, he cut his finger off. I say that laughingly, but there's a lot of trauma that was in that night. And it's parts of it that are completely unrelated to Pete itself, and completely related to the trauma of the trip. And one of those things that happened was Paul cutting his finger off. He thought, well, the thing about Paul is, he's now a woman. A few years later, he came out as a transvestite. And so I believe during the trip, he tapped into those feelings of dysphoria. And instead of thinking he was cutting off his penis, he was actually cutting off his pointer finger. So he grabbed the kitchen knife and just chopped the shit off. So we did have to alert Paul's parents, and Paul's parents alerted the authorities, and that all came down on old one-eyed and one-armed Pete, which unfortunately got Pete thrown in the cage. Now, you think that's the end of the story, but you read the title of the video. That, of course, is not the end of the story. A few months later, my adopted parents, right? I asked them, it's a week after the funeral, the funeral of my mom, right? And I asked them, what do you know about my real dad? What do you know about my real dad? I've always wanted to have a real dad. And, my mom, who is my dad, she gets a little offended. Excuse me. She gets a little offended, but after I calm her down, she tells me, that one guy who sold you that laced fent? That laced weed? Laced with fent? You might want to pay him a visit. And, so later that night, I go pay one-eyed and one-armed Pete a visit. And, what has got to be the most awkward son and father reuniting moment of all time. It's like there's movie moments, and then there's moments that would never be in the movie, That was one of those moments that would never be in a movie. It's like a blooper reel, I guess you could say, of like shit that just belongs in hell, So I hugged my dad, and he said he was I don't even really remember what he said. He didn't have much teeth at that point, so whatever he said, I couldn't quite understand him. And yeah, that's the story of how I met my biological father, and he sold me laced marijuana. Hope you enjoyed the Minecraft gameplay and the traumatic story I told from my life. I really didn't enjoy retelling it. There's a lot of trauma from that day. That kind of whole year of sophomore year. I remember there was I dated a girl, and it turned out she was a pit bull. That one was pretty fucking embarrassing. Maybe I'll do a story about that one too. Dude, there was also the girl I dated, and she turned out to be a fucking pterodactyl. That one was fucking awful as well. But let's keep it focused. This was just a story about my dad. This was just a story about my dad. My real dad, not my mom, dad. But also, Paul, if you're watching this, you look good, girl. You look good, girl. I'm sorry your finger never grew back, but it's not like you needed it anyway. Well, actually, you kind of do now because you do have a vagina. So you and I know you're not left-handed, so missing that right ring finger kind of is putting you at a hindrance for an activity that women perform. Let's end the video. This is drawing on too long. I'm sorry. Old one-eyed and one-armed Pete, he is still in jail, if anyone's wondering. And I don't smoke weed anymore. I don't take tabs anymore. And I still grow mushrooms, but that's natural. So, yep. If you like the video, subscribe, like. There'll be more on the way. Have a good day.